Welcome everyone. I hope y'all are having a good one because today I thought I'd make a video that would capture that vibe. It's 3 a.m. Sitting in an old Xbox party, rambling about stuff, y'all ain't even playing the game anymore. Just chilling out, sharing stories. Well, it's in this environment, this time and place that I feel like the best conversations are had. So, before we get into the video, I'd just like to say I've been dropping some more VR content on this one. I really enjoy VR, honestly, looking back, if I was, like 10, 12 years old back in the day, I would lose my mind over VR. And honestly, truly, my inner kid is just like freaking out when I play VR sometimes. I know it's not all up to par, but there are some good games that you shouldn't overlook right now. I know VR's got a little ways to go, and man, in the next 10 years, it's going to get crazy. Got some Into the Radius VR gameplay here, and also another little arcade game I like called Counterfight, because I know sometimes when I watch commentary gameplay, like sometimes it's a unique game and there's no name for the game and I'm like trying to figure out what it is. So there you go. So this video is going to be about some wild work experiences me and some friends would share with each other throughout the years. So before we get started, get comfy, grab a snack, and let's dive into this video. So this first story has to do with a guy we're going to call Jeremy. Jeremy was a cool dude. He was originally friends with one of my roommates, Gil, that's been in multiple videos, and this guy, when he came, he always had some dope stuff to smoke out of. He would always pull up for a sesh, and I remember one of the best things he had was like this auto vape. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was like a handheld, like almost a canister. It almost looked like an oil gun. You plugged it in, and it automatically shot the vape out, right? And then it had a button you could press, and it would just like streamline it even harder. Keep in mind, this was back in the earlier 2010s, so like other than those big square box vapes with like the surgical tube coming out of it, they were kind of jank. I hated those. He had some pretty unique stuff to smoke out of. And that's pretty much how I remember Jeremy. He'd always swoop in every now and then. He wasn't from our town, but he'd come in and bring some goodies. Him and his girlfriend would hang, and it'd be a great sesh. But Jeremy, I believe, had worked or was working as a paramedic, and he was like in the back of the ambulance, right? And honestly, he told us several crazy stories that were pretty insane. But I remember one story that really stuck with me, and it's not because it was like the most graphic or gory, because hey, he did say a couple of times he saw some people like split in half. And I feel like 99% of his stories were motorcycle involved. So if you ride bikes out there, be careful. But no, this one really stuck with me because the details just really made you feel the situation, the way he was describing it. So Jeremy says they have to go out and pick up a guy that's had a heart attack. They get back to the hospital and they start trying to revive the guy because he's unconscious. And Jeremy said this was one of his first experiences and it was just an absolute war zone. He said that they got the defibrillator, like the shock paddles on the guy, hit him once, dude, and the guy just snaps back from like death pretty much, and he's like screaming at the top of his lungs, gasping for breath, but then he just goes back down. And there's multiple people in the room, like everyone's scrambling to get supplies, and just try to keep this guy alive. He also said, man, the room just smelled like petroleum jelly because, apparently you can't shock people without applying Vaseline or whatever to the paddles. Not only the smell, but the absolute chaos in this room because the amount of petroleum jelly was like splattering on the floor and it had everybody like slipping. Everybody's scrambling around, rushing. It was just chaos. And I remember Jeremy said, he's like, dude, the adrenaline in that room was absolutely palpable, man. Jeremy said that they get the guy back, they finally get him stable, but he said he came back to life and died like 7 times. Like, I could only imagine how insane the guy felt. Like, you just have all these chemicals being released in your brain. There's probably like DMT soaring through your brain and adrenaline and all this stuff from literally dying and coming back to life multiple times. I couldn't imagine what that guy probably felt like. He definitely probably felt like he was on some type of vision quest or something. But honestly, this story doesn't even hold a candle to this next one because it is wild. Now, for this guy, we're going to call him Mike. Now, me and my old roommate that I used to live with after I had moved out of the party house knew Mike only online. I'm pretty sure my old roommate met him years ago playing Halo or something like that. Because every now and then I'd hop in a party on TF2 or most likely Halo back in the day. And this is one of those nights I was talking about earlier. It's like 3 a.m. We're in the Xbox voice chat just talking about anything, rambling about whatever. And Mike was a psychiatrist. This night he tells us, he's like, "Oh man, I have to tell you guys about a story when I did hours at this talk therapy place, like when he was still in school, before he was actually like a psychiatrist." Mike said that he was kind of like a screener. He would take someone in and then just get started on the surface, just find out what's going on, so then they could find the right person to set him up with based on their situation. So Mike gets this middle-aged guy. He says he's a janitor at a mall. He seems to have a pretty normal life, but Mike asks him, to try to get to the main reason why he's there, right? And they ask him, he's like, "Why are you here? How can we help you?" The guy then says, "Well, where I work, at the mall, there's like a Cinnabon or a place that sells pastries." The guy goes on to tell Mike, like, "Well, I get me a box of baked goods, walk down to the men's bathroom with them." And he says, "I then take the pastries, put them in the urinals." He's like, "I leave them there for several hours when it's kind of busy at the mall. And then he comes back after some time and collects the piss-filled pastries." He tells Mike, "I then go home after work, make love to my wife, and right before climaxing, I smash the piss-filled pastries on her chest while she's wrapped up in plastic wrap." Mike said, "Dude, there's sometimes it's hard to keep a straight face." And he's like, "And I have no idea how I did at this point." He's like, "First of all, I was just kind of shocked, but also the after effect of it just being kind of hilarious started hitting me." And after Mike told us this story, something just didn't land with me. I was like, well, wait, why was he even there? If his wife was cool with it, like she was actively willingly participating, it sounded like, right? It's definitely kind of off and a little bizarre, but two consenting adults, right? Do whatever you want in the bedroom. Mike tells me, "Dude, she wasn't cool with it. That's why he was there, because she made him go." Dude, that's when I thought, holy shit, man. If that isn't love, I don't know what it is, because that is just incredible. So, hey, if this guy can find someone like that, that means there are a lot of you out there for, this has a chance, man. Fuck all this Andrew Tate shit. Listen to this story and use that as inspiration. And I wasn't really too sure if I wanted to include this one, but I think it's worth it. This actually has to do with me and a kid that I used to work with when I was maybe 16 or 17 at Crystal. And again, for some of you who don't know, Crystal is essentially like the East Coast, like White Castle. But there's this one guy, Zach, I worked with, and he was several years older than me. He was like definitely in his early 20s, but there was something off about him. And he was kind of an innocent guy, but he was just a little goofy. He lived like right beside the Crystal, and he would just walk to work like 90% of the time. Well, I remember, I don't think this guy had a computer, and I remember he was like paying people to like print off hentai for him, dude. I remember he said that he had plenty now, and I was like, "Well, dude, I'll hook you up, man," because this guy was paying like people like $50 to print off some images. I was like, "Holy shit, man!" Like, dude, back at 16, dude, I was getting paid like 620, 650 something an hour back then. I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'll put you on." But he never offered or anything. But that's aside the point. One of the wild points was when he first started smoking bud. He actually really enjoyed it, and he seemed pretty chill a lot of the times when he would smoke. But dude, I don't know what it was, man. But one day, this kid, he smoked some crazy stuff with one of our managers. And then the next day, he's like on some kind of crazy like religious trip, right? And this guy, he was never religious or anything by all means. He was like pretty just like secular, whatever you would say. But one day he did a 180. He was like Westboro Baptist Church crazy. Dude, he said he had a dream that he was in hell, and like the devil was like burning him, and God was just like telling him how bad he was. So he just like, from this dream, he became like an insane conservative Christian guy. And, I kind of thought he was just being goofy Zach at the time. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, man, whatever." But I always remember he was all about Alucard, like the Helsing shit. I also remember back in the day, I haven't used Xbox in a while, but you could always have that little bio thing under your Xbox profile, right? And he never had one, but then I realized that he had an all caps thing one day when he logged on, and I clicked on him like, "What's this?" And dude, it was like a manifesto, or it was like Bible scriptures, like all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh, wow. Like this is serious, dude." And you know what's crazy? The guy stayed like that the entire time. Like, I think I saw like a Facebook post from, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, and he was still saying the same stuff. And now I'm thinking about it, I was like, dude, I just want to know what he was smoking because I got to get my hands on that, dude. He fucking smoked himself into Christianity. That's fire, dude. I'm not even religious, but I respect that. And man, honestly, I have several stories with this guy that I might make another video on in another day. So those are a couple of work stories from friends just hanging out at a late night Xbox party. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe, drop a comment, hit it with a like, and hey, if you've got some crazy work stories, share them in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to take it easy, gamers.